The Zerthian sun hung low over the jagged plains of Korath 9, casting long amber shadows over the alien landscape. The predator cubs scuttled among the tall, crystalline spires, their scales glinting with iridescent light. Despite their fearsome claws and teeth, the colony's xenobiologists were watching intently from a safe distance, armed with nothing but curiosity and an unshakable human optimism. Dr. Alara Voss, chief xenobiologist of the expedition, leaned over the observation railing of the hover platform, her comm unit crackling as she recorded data. "This is remarkable," she murmured. Her voice, calm but incredulous, carried over the soft hum of the ship's systems. "The cubs are exhibiting behaviors that, nothing in the xenofauna database predicts this." Beside her, Lieutenant Rian Torres, assigned to security, raised an eyebrow, still keeping a hand near his sidearm, though he had yet to draw it. "Predict what? That adorable little things like death claws would, let humans kiss their boo-boos?" he said, gesturing toward a pair of cubs, no larger than a house cat, hunched over a shallow fissure in the rock. The cubs had been injured earlier in a territorial scuffle with older Zerthians, minor cuts and abrasions mostly, but their wails had echoed across the canyon. When Alara approached, cautiously extending a healing spray in one hand and a trembling finger in the other, the unthinkable happened. The cubs leaned in, nudged her hand, and allowed themselves to be gently kissed on the scales of their tiny snouts. Torres blinked, disbelief written across his face. Humans are literally patching up alien predators with kisses." Alara laughed softly. "HFY moment, Lieutenant," she said. "Seriously. Minor injuries up 400% on these specimens. And yet, we're observing unprecedented cooperation." The team had been stationed on Korath 9 for 3 weeks, initially expecting hostile encounters with the Zerthians. The species was known throughout surveyed sectors as apex predators, capable of obliterating a fully armored scout team in seconds. But humans, it seemed, had discovered an overlooked constant in the universe: empathy and patience, and occasionally a well-timed kiss. It began with a single cub, whom the team had named Tarka. The little creature had been separated from its mother during a territorial clash. When Alara crouched, exposing her hand in the universal sign of non-aggression, Tarka had sniffed it, hissed, and then, against all evolutionary instincts, leaned in. By the time the other cubs joined, the team had unwittingly stumbled upon a cultural phenomenon that would redefine the Zerthian-human relationship forever. "Do you realize what this means?" Alara said, watching as Tarka rolled onto its back, exposing a scratch on its underbelly. She pressed her lips lightly to it. The cub didn't flinch. "Minor injuries up 400% and humans are still accepted. It's revolutionary." Torres shook his head, still partly laughing. "We're basically babysitting apex predators." "Babysitting?" Alara said, tilting her head. "Lieutenant, this is diplomacy at the purest level. The Zerthian species has never allowed this. Trusting humans to this degree? That's unprecedented. That's HFY." A small explosion of glittering spores erupted as a cub sneezed, coating Alara's hair with luminescent dust. She wiped it away, smiling, utterly unfazed. The cubs chirped in what the team would later classify as playful mimicry, their vocalizations almost like laughter. The breakthrough came when the mother Zerthian approached. Towering and majestic, her scales were darker, almost obsidian, and her eyes glowed with caution. The cubs froze, glancing nervously at the humans. Alara froze, too, heart hammering. The mother circled slowly, analyzing every gesture. Then, astonishingly, she lowered her massive head. The cubs chirped, and one by one, they nestled into her protective embrace. The mother looked at Alara with what could only be described as acknowledgement, and perhaps even respect. "Humans," Torres muttered, shaking his head in disbelief. Did we just get a nod of approval from a predator king? More like the apex of HFY, Ilara replied, her voice tinged with wonder. We came armed with science, curiosity, and care, and look at the results. As the weeks went on, the phenomenon only intensified. The cubs would approach the humans for healing and comfort, hissing softly when minor injuries were exposed, then curling around them when treated. Each kiss from a human hand seemed to reinforce a bond far stronger than any weapon, any treaty, or any promise. The Xerthians began responding to human commands, not because of fear, but because of trust. A simple gesture from Ilara would direct the cubs, while more complex cues were learned within hours. Humans didn't just survive on Korath 9, they were celebrated. Almost revered in the eyes of an apex species that had once regarded them as inconsequential pests. Minor injuries up 400%, Torres repeated one day as he logged another interaction, and the species literally invites humans into their lives. HFY doesn't even begin to cover this. The breakthrough reached the galactic councils within months. Humans had demonstrated, not with overwhelming firepower, but with patience, empathy, and yes, kisses, that they were capable of achieving things that brute force could not. Entire war councils studied the Korath 9 reports, reevaluating humanity's place among interstellar civilizations. Where others saw a fragile species, the Xerthians saw partners, allies, heroes. And back on Korath 9, Tarka and the other cubs grew stronger, more curious, and ever more attached to their human caretakers. The minor injuries, scratches, cuts, burns, continued to rise as the cubs explored their world. But each human kiss, each gentle gesture reinforced a singular truth. No amount of danger could diminish humanity's ability to inspire loyalty, love, and cooperation across species. Ilara watched one of the cubs chase a glittering crystal shard across the canyon floor, the creature's claws digging into rock yet halting when her hand extended in reassurance. It paused, sniffed, and then batted the shard toward her. A simple, profound exchange of trust. She smiled. HFY, she whispered, all the way across the stars. In the grand scheme of the universe, humans were small. Their weapons, though advanced, paled in comparison to the Xerthian might. But when compassion became a tool, when patience and understanding were wielded as weapons of influence, humanity became unstoppable. And somewhere in the amber light of Korath 9, a group of predator cubs learned the most extraordinary lesson of all, that even the smallest, gentlest gestures, like a kiss, could reshape destiny.